Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk with Vince. So, during the South Australian elections we're having here over the next couple of months, we're going to try and get as many of the candidates as possible on and ask them the same questions for each candidate and see what their responses are. Now, fortunately, this candidate I actually know because I ran with him previously in a federal election and we got to be friends along the way. So he's offered to do my very first recording, and this is Kym Hanton. He is running with One Nation, and he is running in Elizabeth. That's the correct district, isn't it?
It is, mate. It is. And hello to everyone watching.
Excellent, thank you. Right, so this first one will be interesting because we get to make all our mistakes and fall over our feet and everything else, but we're not going to edit this in any way or form unless someone really does something wrong or we get interrupted or have a power failure or whatever else. But effectively, you will see the real responses in real time, so you'll get to know the candidate as they are for the real person. All right, Kym, so we've got about 16 questions we're going to go through here. Effectively, you're probably going to need to keep your answers short because we want to try and do this in a 30-minute time frame. And hopefully that'll be the same for each one. So
I
the
guess I
first,
won't be able to phone a friend then.
no phoning friends, right? So, okay, so the very first question is, what was the reason you decided to stand for this party?
Well, as you know, I'll try and keep this as brief as possible. When I first ran for the federal election in Barker, I was originally a part of Trumpet of Patriots, so I was part of the startup of that. And then Australian Federation Party obviously approached people or approached Trumpet of Patriots. So I ran for Barker, met you and Carlos as well. And they ended up being a bit of a pop-up party. So then I ran as an independent for Spence. And I started in politics because I wasn't happy with the direction the country was going. So my first run started in 2022. And before that, I wasn't interested. And so what made me go to One Nation is nice and quickly is they were the only party that resonated with me even closely. No party's perfect, in my opinion, but at least with One Nation South Australia, they are a bunch of real people running for seats and they're not career politicians. Pauline's always been outspoken, and I appreciate that and respect that. And I'd like to see more of a presence within state and federal. But unfortunately, there's a lot of minor parties out there, a lot of independents out there, and I could not bring them together prior to me joining One Nation. I tried very, very hard because there needs to be some form of opposition against a duopoly. So that's why I joined One Nation, because they seem to be the only place where there can be some substantial opposition and potentially government, hopefully into the future. So I'm there to stay now. I won't be leaving unless they kick me out.
Okay. Now, as I said, this is the first interview, so we mucked up here. I forgot to ask you the first question, a short summary of who you are.
I'm just an everyday bloke. So my obviously my journey into politics was never planned. I was hoping after it. So I was a copper for 17 years. I was in defence for 20, 23, 24. I'm still an inactive reservist. So I'm lucky there. So, well, depends on whether or not you call it luck. Father of a very awesome young lady, and very much single and happy. And I've got a whole bunch of fish and a couple of dogs. And I'm born and bred from Elizabeth, so I've grown up in the area. I like jet skis, motorbikes, and I like the good old fashioned, Aussies having a fair go. So I'd like to see things go back towards Australia having a better and brighter future, so that we can leave something good behind for our kids. So I'm doing this for future generations, hopefully.
Okay. All right. So, speaking of future generations, power bills keep rising in South Australia households. What's your position on renewables, and do you think the pace of the transition has pushed electricity costs too high for ordinary families?
I think that our electricity costs are insane. I mean, South Australia, and I've been saying this, and you know that for a substantial amount of time, talking about how South Australia is supposed to be leading the way when it comes to renewables. I think that solar farms taking up farmland, I think housing taking up farmland is ludicrous. It's self-destructive, and it's not with a good focus for the future. My position on renewables, unfortunately, I think now we're stuck with them. We need to find some way of working with them. Do I think that wind farms are green? No, absolutely not. Do I think that solar farms are green? No. But we need to now look at the fact that we have all this infrastructure in place. We've got to find a way to work with that. I think that John Olsen and the Liberal Party, when they sold off our electricity, was it wasn't a smart move, and I think that government and the people. I mean, the government is supposed to represent the people. I think that we need to really look at utilities coming back into the hands of the people, so to speak. How that happens, I don't have an answer for you right now, but it's certainly something that I would be striving for so that we can bring those prices down. So we're going to have to find a happy medium somehow to make it more reasonable. Because making things in this state, and I'm sorry, Vince, I'm starting to go probably in depth here, but making things like manufacturing and industry can't be successful in this country now, and which is why we literally don't make anything anymore because of high power prices. So we need to bring that down. And how we do that is obviously get out there and network with communities and those people within that industry to find a solution for our problem.
All right, I'm going to have to try and cut you off a few times there, Kim, because it is a big subject, and I understand that.
Yeah.
So, but we do want to try and keep within the time frame. Okay, so next one, South Australians are feeling pressure right now. Power, rego, insurance, council rates. What will you actually change this term to reduce everyday costs?
Everyday costs, well, that again, wages go up, the price of goods goes up, doesn't it? So we've got to find again, we need to look at somehow fixing all the damage that's been done over, I would say 20 odd years, 20 to 30 years. So this hasn't just happened overnight, it's gradually increased. How do we fix it? Again, we're going to have to put our heads together and look at solutions. And I mean, One Nation, South Australia has a whole bunch of policies looking at trying to bring the prices down on houses, etc. We've got to look at the government charges, how much government charges for things. I mean, GST was supposed to replace a lot of taxes. And so we need to look at how we could perhaps get rid of some of those taxes so that the price of goods isn't so high.
Okay. Well, you mentioned housing in that particular one. So rents are skyrocketing across South Australia. Do you accept that state planning decisions and immigration have made the rental crisis worse? And what will you change immediately if you could?
Well, for those people that want to know, go to the website for One Nation South Australia. Look at our policies. We are looking at the fees it costs, and 45% government fees for building houses and for buying new ones. So, or not buying new ones, buying established ones. That's also when you look at immigration, absolutely, because when you have supply and demand, more people means more demand. And right now, the supply is not so great. We don't have enough houses. They're rushing them. The quality of housing right now, like the houses going up, is not fantastic. I mean, in my area, there's a massive amounts of building happening in Monopara. I mean, Blakeview's pretty much established now, but there's still building happening. And the slab will go down, and not long later, they're already throwing the frame up. The concrete's not being cured. not really a building expert, but Carlos is. He's a builder, and we have those expertise there. But I'm not. I'm just maintenance. Like I do basic maintenance, and I look at some of these houses and I go, they the long term, it's not going to work out. So we really need to look at the amount of housing we have available, and that is why our rents are so high, because there's so much demand.
Yeah.
But then we've got to take into account, sorry, Vince, we've got to take into account those landlords as well, like the low level landlords, just the families that are trying to have a house on the side. I mean, I've dealt with two people recently just in Elizabeth's area who are looking at having to move again because the landlords can't afford to keep the house.
Yeah. Yeah, so that comes back to the people. And another thing that's happening with people, and which is relative, is people are waiting hours for ambulances in South Australia. What is your plan to fix ramping, and when should the public expect to see real improvement?
Well, again, this hasn't happened overnight. This has been a long-term problem. I've actually spoken to a paramedic at one of my launch, in fact, and he came up with a suggestion on how to try and streamline, because a lot of the problems that we're having at the ED is that people are going there for things that really are not emergency, but because of the cost of health, literally, a lot of doctors are bulk billing. So we need to work
That's the
with.
next question.
Well, we need to hammer I might be able to answer two in one. We need to work with the federal government, which is not great because they're both Labor governments at the moment. But we need to find a solution for our health system to try and stop the burden. But again, that comes down to the amount of people that we allow into the area. And I've done articles on this as well. You increase the population, you increase the demand and the need on those resources. Again, if we don't have the infrastructure in place, we shouldn't be expanding the populace. But we need to get smarter and plan better for the future. And the only way to do that is actually get in there and start speaking to the people on the ground to find out what the key issues are. And like I said, this paramedic came up with a solution, which is take a couple of beds out of certain rooms within the ED, and you can then put recliners where you can get more people into those rooms or those areas who aren't obviously emergency. They're just waiting on results and things like that. So that is a possible solution, and that's coming from the front line. And that's where our politicians are failing. They're not speaking to the front line. They're relying on the executives or, the high paid public servants, as opposed to actually getting out there and speaking to people on that front line who may have a solution for the problem.
Okay. Yep. So the next question, which you basically answered before, was many South Australians say they can no longer find a bulk billing GP, and the other part was, do you accept this is happening? You've already acknowledged that. So thank you for that question. How will you stop regional communities from losing hospitals, services, and local jobs?
How do I stop that? Again, I honestly, mate, I don't know how we fix that. I mean, Ardrossan, I found out, have lost their hospital. Regional health is important. If you've got no facilities out there, you've got no infrastructure out there, why it's stopping people from moving it and having the basic needs fulfilled. Ambulances out there, I hear, volunteers, and they're getting burnt out. So we really need to look at our health system. We need to look at our infrastructure, how we're providing that, and where the waste is happening. Because we know with government, if you're contracting out to people, there's going to be a lot of waste. Bills blow out. I mean, you just have to look at the RAH to know about blowouts. Some of the horror stories I'm hearing about that, it's phenomenal. That's where we need to get a better management and a better, what's the word for it, a more of a hands-on approach where somebody's responsible for the project and they're reporting back, so that whatever minister is there responsible for that portfolio, they are literally making sure that every dollar is spent smarter. And that's where we're losing a lot of money. And that infrastructure, that money that we save, we can put back into infrastructure. We need to get health systems back out to those rural towns, because a lot of those towns support farming, and a lot of those towns support other industries, and we need those industries. We need to protect them, because without those industries, we're going to become reliant on imports, and that's not where we want to be.
Okay, so that's you. In that, you sort of also answered the next question, which was, what would you do differently to fix access to healthcare? And you've already said making people accountable and the minister to watch and everything. So
Well,
great.
we have to maintain that health system. Like, health is one of the key issues. We have to encourage GPs as well, and this is the other thing a lot of people don't understand. If we don't train GPs and encourage them to stay here in the state, or get them out there, or give them incentives, and that's another thing that One Nation is promoting. Some of our policies could, like, again, policies are a framework. There's room to adjust. There's room to move on those. That's what they are. They're an idea, and ideas grow with input. So anybody who goes through our policies and has a look and comes up with an idea, get in touch with me. I really want to hear, especially agriculture and policing, justice and reform. There's a lot of things that we're working on.
Well, did you read the script or something? Because
I've got no idea what questions you're going to ask me, mate, and it's just that, like, obviously I'm out talking to the community. I'm hearing what their key issues are, what their problems are. So,
Yep.
And I'm also part of that community. I spend a lot of time rural because I spend a lot of time down the river, although I haven't had an opportunity to get down there very much. But when you talk to people and you've got a broad expanse of people that you talk to, then you know what's going on in those rural towns. Like I said, Ardrossan Hospital was a skeleton hospital when I was down there last, and even then, you could see the failings that was happening, and it's not just happened overnight.
Yeah.
Labor and Liberal are literally taking turns on how to screw things up as much as possible.
Yep. And if people wish to know, in another Real Talk with Vince, I actually did the listing of how many years Labor and Liberal have been controlling the South Australian government. So if they want to go watch that video, feel free. So the reason why I was saying reading the script, because you mentioned policing. And the very next question is, people in both the suburbs and regional South Australia say they feel less safe than they did 5 years ago. Why do you think that is, and what would you change?
Well, lucky I've got a policing background. And frankly, what would I change? I'd get coppers back to those fundamentals. Policing's about people, not stats. So getting coppers out there, getting them out in the community, get them walking the beat, like I used to. You get out of the car, you literally walk around a suburb, and you know those people in the area. And I can tell you what, a lot of people were surprised to see coppers walking around out of their patrol car. Having that presence is going to make people feel safer. But also, we need to look at our legislation and consider how and what we are imprisoning people for, because our prisons are full. But also the punishments. We need to have some accountability back on our magistrates and judges, and if they do it wrong, I mean, if they like Peter, like, let's look at pedophilias, all right, pedophiles, and I'm trying not to use any what's the word for it, derogatory terms, but pedophiles, that there is no real reason why these people shouldn't be in prison. Their suspended sentences is ridiculous. They are betraying what's the word for it, trust, and they're also permanently damaging kids. It's not okay, and they need to spend a bit of time in the big house, out of protection in general pop.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we won't go any further with that one. Should repeat youth offenders who commit violent crimes face jail time? Yes or no?
Yes, they should.
Okay. Roads, potholes.
There's got to be some accountability.
Yep. Okay. So roads around South Australia. So South Australian roads are deteriorating with potholes becoming a real issue. Will you prioritise fixing existing roads before funding new transport projects?
We have to fix our roads because they're the connection to businesses, to homes, to everything. And here's I'm going to throw this out to the state government right now. Instead of fixing every road at the same time, fix one road and do it properly the first time. I mean, in Elizabeth, we got terrible roads like Wammer Road, Curtis Road, and for ages, Nick Champion, who reckons that they've been busy for the last 4 years, has been piling that back on the Playford Council. Playford Council doesn't have the budget to fix it, and instead of working together, they reckon an overpass over the train tracks is going to fix the problem. It make sure the infrastructure is established and it's wide enough. Fix all the problems that we've got now, but unfortunately, with expansion as well, though, Vince, because we're expanding the rural sprawl, not the rural sprawl, the residential sprawl is getting out there. We have to build new roads. We need to build new infrastructure, but they need to do it right the first time. They need to plan ahead. So if there's going to be an absolutely massive dense area, then build a big enough road to support that. Build the water infrastructure to support that. And then the cost, yes, it's going to be large at the start, but in the long term, you're not going to have to dig up the roads because they're going to be done properly.
Okay. Yep. So small businesses are closing under rising state costs and regulations. What would you cut, freeze, or change to keep them operating?
I couldn't go into this one in depth because I don't know enough about what taxes are there, but I'm sure there's way too many, and we probably need to look at those government fees and make sure that people are doing the right thing. But I think we're over-regulated anyway, mate, and that's something that I've constantly said. We're over-regulated in pretty much every aspect. We don't need to be. I mean, realistically, if there's a big hole, we don't need to be told not to walk into the big hole. Some people do, but do we really need to wrap everybody in cotton wool? But we also need to bring back the amount of taxing that the government does on businesses, because those small businesses need to be back to what they were, which is, I mean, furniture making, things like that. That's disappearing. And we need to encourage those small businesses because there's opportunities for growth right there.
Okay. For education, we've got teachers that are saying they are burnt out and classrooms are overcrowded. What would you change or make changes to, rather than try that again? What changes will you make now rather than after another review or inquiry?
I don't think, again, get back out there and talk to them. I spoke to a teacher last weekend who's been a teacher for 11 years and she can't get a permanent position. So she's been sent around every which way. Get back. The education department needs to take charge of recruitment, making sure that they've got a pool of teachers. And the principals need to not be responsible for recruitment, in my opinion, or saying, yeah, you've got a permanent position. I think that, yeah, I didn't know that either, Vince. I can see your head tweaking there. But apparently that's like I spoke to a lady, and there was actually two teachers. One was a lady that came from India, and she's been here and funnily enough, they are supporters of One Nation. So she's been here for 22 years. They've been here. She was a teacher over in India for I think 15 or so years, if I was actually listening. Her daughter is also a teacher, and 11 years. And so we need to make sure that we retain our teachers, not burn them out. Classroom sizes when I was a kid were too large, and now I'm here and they're still the same size. Like, they're still expanding. Super schools, building bigger schools with more students. I mean, how much responsibility do we need to slam onto teachers? Bigger schools means more kids. and chances are less teachers. So again, we need to encourage retention so that the older teachers teach the new teachers, and keep the get the education back to the fundamentals as well. So enough of this. I guess woke agenda crap, and make sure that we're teaching the fundamentals in school, and leave the social aspects to the parents at home.
Cool. All right. During COVID, many South Australians were told to take a vaccine or lose their jobs. Many more were coerced into taking a vaccine and were injured. Do you support compensation for those that were injured and those that refused a vaccine and lost their employment as a result? Yes or no?
Well, the answer is, unfortunately, I have to say yes, because this is why I came into politics. I didn't like what was happening, but I don't believe the government should be paying for that. The people. Let me rephrase that. I think the government should definitely be responsible for what has happened. I mean, that's why I ran for parliament. I think you've kind of stuck me on this one, Vince. But
Don't worry, everybody's
should
going to cop it.
should the compensation come from the people? No, I don't believe it should. I think that the pharmaceutical big pharma should be paying that price.
Cool.
However, our government, in all their wisdom, decided to give them that clause, didn't they? So, yes, we need to look after. I know of many people who have suffered as a result of this. I know people that I've been supporting, nurses, and obviously because we've been friends for a while, that they've been about all of this stuff is just wrong. So yes, but that unfortunately is a federal matter. Can I, as a state member, put pressure on the federal government? Yes, I can.
This is a popping question. This is new. You said it's a federal matter, but is it? Because it was the state mandates that forced people out of jobs.
Oh, now you're
The
throwing a
very next
curveball at
question,
me. That is true. That is
very
true.
next
So
question comes down to more on that. So I'll bring it in so you might be able to answer the both.
okay.
Right? If I can say his name properly, so please excuse me if I go.
Malinowskis.
That's the one. Malinowskis has introduced even stricter emergency powers that has damaged public trust in South Australia. Do you agree with them, or would you repeal these laws?
I would repeal. Well, let me rephrase this, ladies and gents. I will push to have them repealed, unless we get a strong presence within Parliament, and everyone else on the party may not agree with me, but I think a lot of them will, because we're all ordinary people. We're predominantly there's no real politicians amongst us, other than a couple of councillors and obviously now Corey Bernardi coming on board, which is awesome. However, yeah, no, I'd definitely be looking at a lot of these new laws that have come in, that are just downright ridiculous and controlling.
Okay.
I don't agree with any of the COVID heavy-handedness that happened. So
yeah, even the newest laws that he's put through recently, where they have the right to enter a property just by say so, if they say.
Again, I haven't read these laws, so I'm going to take your word for it and absolutely disagree with them. And I can tell you, I wouldn't be very happy if I had people trying to force their way into my house.
Okay.
So,
all right, next one is listening to your locals. If your local community overwhelmingly opposed the government's decision, will you vote against your party to represent them? Yes or no?
yes, I would. That's something that I've always said that I would do if my party is making a poor decision. And I'm sorry, but I don't think that my party will. Carlos basically, I mean, after the first time I ran against Carlos, because he ran against us in the first time, I had a high level of respect for him, and I think we're on the same page. So he's one of the reasons why I went across to One Nation South Australia. Is
Okay.
quite simply, there are good people in this party, and the fact is yes, I would, but I don't see it being an issue. My community, if elected into Elizabeth, that's who I represent. So if my community says black is white, then I might disagree with them, but I will I will vote for the community because that's who I'm employed to represent.
Beautiful. Okay. What is one decision that the current South Australian government, what is one decision? Sorry, start that again. See, mistakes and all, guys, right? What is one decision by the current South Australian government that you believe has made life harder for ordinary South Australians?
Um, by the South Australian government,
Yes.
I would have to say their decision to not look seriously at the desalination plants and the cause of marine death. That has made things quite difficult. We got our fish are dying in mass, and that may not impact on a lot of people inland, but there's a lot of money going into the government trying to do certain things like advertising, saying it's all fine, it's all dandy. That money could be better used and utilised in other key infrastructure. Again, the COVID thing. We've lost teachers, nurses, so we've got a shortage. Their choice of where they're building houses. Again, if we thought about not consuming our farmland and encouraged farming because we need that, again, plan to the future, look forward. If we don't manufacture and agriculture and horticulture our own produce, we're going to be relying on imports. It sends the price up.
Yeah.
We're relying on imports, we're going to struggle. So there's a number of things that Malinowskis and, back in the day, Marshall have done that I disagree with. Again, like John Olsen selling the electricity, that's made it harder, hasn't it? Because it's given it over to the corporate powerhouses. That was supposed to bring the prices down. Competition, that don't work.
Yeah. Okay. So congratulations. You've made it through the bulk of my questions. Well done. Now I have one last one for you. Why should voters choose you as their representative?
Because I'm like a dog with a bone. I will not. I won't let go. If you give something to me and you say, "I want you to chase this," I will. I want to see Elizabeth get back a lot more pride in their region. We used to be proud of where we came from, even if we were rough as guts. I want to see industry pick back up, and I want to see us build for a better future. But most of all, you come to me with any problem, my doors are going to be open. If I can't solve it, I'll find someone that can. And we will work together as a community, and I will actually represent you, and I will be out there. I mean, I live in the community, ladies and gents. So I've been here and I'm not planning on going anywhere. But that's why you should vote for me, because I'm actually one of you. And I will speak for you. And I will be very loud about it.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kym, for your time today. I appreciate you coming on and being the first person to do the interview. I'm hoping to get a few other One Nations. I'm hoping to get, what is it, 47 districts we've got? And
we have a total of 51 candidates. So we've got 4 for the MLC, so that's the Legislative Council.
Yep.
And we've got 47 candidates. So
the lower house.
so
effectively, I'm hoping to get all of the various districts, as many politicians on as I possible. I shouldn't call you a politician, but I will. As many as possible on answering these same questions. And at the end of this, we should hopefully have a little bit of a tally. I hope everybody enjoyed this interview with Kym Hanton. Kym's been around for a while, and now you've got to meet the man who is representing Elizabeth for the One Nation Party. So once again, Kym, thank you very much for all of that and for everything you've just done for us today with this interview. All I can say is best of luck, mate, in what you're doing.
Thanks, mate. I just hope I don't get in trouble for this one.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for watching Real Talk. We'll have some more of these soon.